If you're a residential real estate agent earning $200,000 a year and you want to grow your passive income, this show's for you. Learn the secrets other agents use and hear from experts in our field in order to guide you along your journey to investing in assets like apartment communities so that you can turn your commissions into cash flow. I'm Randall McLeod. Let's go, baby. All right. Agents, welcome back. It's great to have you today. Today, I am chatting with Corrie Sommers. She is a top producing agent out of the Beverly Hills in the California area. She is a luxury listing agent with Compass, and she's the vice president of Toluca Lake Chamber of Commerce. So we dive in, we talk about, what she's doing and how she's using social media and video to help promote and educate her customers or clients, and how you should be doing the same. And then we talk about investing and how she was investing prior to the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis, and then what she's doing now, and how goal setting is a huge thing for her and her clients, and how she sticks with her clients through their life cycle of buying and continuing to buy real estate to accomplish their goals for retirement and that sort of thing. So really great interview. Corrie is a wealth of knowledge. Again, she's out there in her market, and she's doing quite a few things that are awesome. So check her out. Check out her YouTube page as well. It's in the show notes. So looking forward to chatting with her. As always, if you're getting value out of the show, please like and subscribe. And if you could leave an actual written review, that would be great. Really appreciate it. Helps us with rankings and get the information out there. Yeah, let's jump in. Let's go, Corrie. I was digging in and I was taking a look at some of the stuff that you're working on. I know you volunteer quite a bit. I know you're with the Chamber of Commerce, and I know you're actively looking at, or interviewing people within the chamber. So I was kind of curious myself. I just want to see how that's impacting your business, and like how that came to be a thing that you wanted to work on and do.
Yeah, absolutely. As I started to get into video, I looked at what is really important. I mean, how many videos can you do talking about the buying process, talking to sellers? I know that shorts are really a thing now, but at the time I was like, am I going to do a ton of shorts saying what I've already done in a big video? And I didn't really want to go in that direction. I felt like in the different markets that I was selling at, it was important not just to be able to refer my clients to some local businesses, but to be able to say, hey, here are some of your local businesses. Take a look, get to know the owners, get to know their business, see if these are places that you want to patronize, whether they're restaurants, boutiques, or specialized businesses. I even found that when I first started out, I did, kind of businesses related to real estate. So like insurance carriers, so that when I could send my clients referrals and recommendations, they could actually watch an interview and get a sense of that person and their coverage and their style, and if they felt like a fit. So starting to interview local businesses kind of came natural. And when I first went about it, I was just approaching whoever would accept an interview with me in the local cities, like Beverly Hills, Sherman Oaks, Studio City, whoever I could get. And then when I became a part of the Toluca Lake Chamber board, instead of just being a member, the pandemic hit. And we were really faced with, how do we help our local businesses? And I was like, well, I do this thing with businesses anyways. Why don't I do it as part of their membership, no cost to them, just to help promote them? And it's something they can use as a tool to promote their business, and we can use as a tool to promote their business. So it's more labor of love, right? And so I've tried to tackle all of the chamber members before I go back outside into the broader scope throughout the city again. And that's kind of where it's at. It's interesting because some of our members, after doing the video, have gotten features on like the local news stations, and that's really helped to like catapult them. And I just think overall, it's such a good little personal touch. We're in a day and age where most things are corporate. And when you have an area where you've got mom and pop and small owners, it's just a nicer feel. And when people can resonate with them and feel like a connection, they're more apt to patronize their business.
Yeah, that's solid. That's a great workaround. And labor of love, I think, that's what this thing is. It's like you're interviewing, and it's good. I mean, it's great because I get to have conversation. I get to meet people like you and kind of chat and see what's working in your business. But yeah, it is quite a bit of work to do those things. And so it's a great service that you're providing them. I'm sure that they enjoy that and get the benefit from it. So I want to establish a few things real fast. So you are luxury real estate. You're in the Beverly Hills market. Is that correct?
Yeah, I wouldn't get so specific to say Beverly
Okay.
Hills. My office is Beverly Hills adjacent, and I was with an office that was Beverly Hills, but I sell throughout both the LA Basin and the San Fernando Valley. So when you look at Los Angeles, it's kind of like this with a mountain range separating this huge two valleys, if you will. And Los Angeles, you have Los Angeles County, which is super huge, and then Los Angeles as a city, which is areas on both sides, right? And I think there's something like 88 technically districts. So we consider places like Sherman Oaks, but it's technically the district of Sherman Oaks in the city of Los Angeles. Beverly Hills is its own city. Santa Monica is its own city. West Hollywood is its own city. Burbank is its own city. But then these other parts that we all think of LA, like Culver City, Baldwin Hills, Ladera Heights, Cheviot Hills, it's Los Angeles. But what's interesting is when you get into the San Fernando Valley, Mill comes to the name of those districts. When you're in the LA Basin, it says Los Angeles. So it's really like there's these little nuances of the whole city. And I tend to work mostly along the hillside corridor on both sides. Of course, we always cater to our clients. So if I have a client that needs Redondo Beach or Manhattan Beach, and I don't normally go that far, as long as I can do it, I will. Or when traffic's really bad, if it's just not conducive because they can't go other than like the peak traffic time, and that's going to be 5 hours on the freeway for me, then I'll have a partner agent there.
Yeah, that's so wild. Yeah, I've been out there a few times, and it's like if you hit it at the right time, it's no time at all. But it's an afternoon endeavor if you're at the wrong time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess the point I was trying to get to, like, what's your price point? What are you typically focusing on? And then what's your sales volume annually? Just trying to kind of establish where you are and what you're taking down and doing on the market.
So price point is, I would say right now, averaging 1.9 to 4.3. And that's kind of for us, that's like middle class range. It's just that as prices have gone up, people that purchased their homes 30 years ago, 20 years ago in the 200s, they're now in that price point. And then, of course, our new construction tends to come on anywhere at like 2.5 and up. You kind of have this mid-range new construction that's like 2,500 to 3,500 square feet that's in that range. Now, of course, when you start seeing the television shows with like the $1 million listings and all those other ones, they're doing those 25 millions and plus, but those are also much larger homes. You're talking 6,000, 12,000 square feet, and with those huge hillside views. There, you can get a hillside view. What's really interesting throughout that corridor on both sides. You can have a hillside view in Beverly Hills, Brentwood, West Hollywood, the Hollywood Hills. And then when you come over to the other side, you can be in Studio City with the Valley hillside views. You can be in Sherman Oaks, Encino, Tarzana, Woodland Hills. They all have those views because of that, again, that hillside corridor that separates those two valleys.
Yeah. So we're on a truncated time. So I want to hit some things fast so that we can get the value out there. So right now on the broker side of the business, what is it that you are doing in this current market? And especially, I'm always curious out in LA and in California, just like I listen to a bunch of other podcasts and these guys talking about, San Francisco is certain parts of California, people are moving out more than they're moving in, right? So net loss. I don't know how LA specifically is, but like in this market environment, what are you doing now that's winning you the most business, or some tips, I guess, that any other agents listening to this could maybe take away and say, okay, if I implement this, then maybe that's going to help my business?
For me, it's a combination of things. One of the things that I've done almost from day one has been internet leads. And so when I first started selling, I got really good at it because that's all I really had. But I also do open houses, and then with just the video and just really trying to help people, versus sell people. Like, I'm really trying to share information that helps you make those decisions, because a lot of times, let's take a first-time buyer in the whole millennial generation, everything is at their fingertips. You can go online and see properties, and you can see this, and you kind of get an expert at, or you feel like you're an expert at something, but it's really not. It's just you have a lot of data, right? And so that kind of causes people to put things in the wrong order, the horse before the cart. They go out and look at some open houses and they don't necessarily know their purchasing power. Yep. And then they might think it's one thing and it's something else. So what I really try to do is provide as much educational information and tools that can really help you. And my thing is never just about the sale. I have a background in finance. I've worked both in the mortgage industry and financial planning, and I want to see people set up for life. So If you're a millennial and you're purchasing a home from me for the first time, I have partners that I get you a free consultation with to make sure you're on track, so that when you retire, you're in the same standard of living that you are now. And hopefully, as we work together and you grow, we get you to the place where you have generational wealth. If you're older, there's still that whole thing, like my mother is retired and we're looking at how to maximize her retirement funds as well as her money in her home, and what do we do to keep her going into her 90s. And so I think I always come from that place with all my clients. Like, it's not about one transaction. I'm not looking at my paycheck. It's about how do we position you for your best goals and needs throughout your life.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're proud to be sponsored by Ridgeline Investment Group. Ridgeline has a track record of transacting more than $53 million in assets throughout Texas. Ridgeline is currently looking to acquire 100 to 200 unit Class B multifamily communities between 5 and 20 million in San Antonio, Temple, Waco, Tyler, and other Texas secondary markets. To learn more about Ridgeline Investment Group, visit www.ridgelineig.com. So on that point, then what are some specific, maybe not specific, but through the trends, I guess, if you're doing this with a lot of your clients, like what are you seeing those, either the financial planning side or the long-term goal setting? Like I'm a huge proponent of that. I have people and friends that ask me all the time, like, hey man, what should I do? I'm like, well, what are you trying to do? What do you need? Walk me through that process and kind of like what comes out of the back end of that typically that you see, maybe a first time buyer or something.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a little different for everybody. So if we're talking a first time buyer, it's like, okay, now that you've bought your first home, let's make sure you've got your steps for your retirement. And then let's come back and talk about your next strategies. Are you going to be looking, was this just your entry level home? It didn't have everything you want. Do we want to step you up in a couple years? Can we keep this home as a rental and build a rental portfolio? Where can we be at in that perspective? I have a client that she was in her 60s, 3 kids. She's divorced. She's paying for everything. Parents had passed, so she got a little bit of a nest egg. So we stepped her up into a better home, better neighborhood where everyone was comfortable. And now what we're looking at is, how do we set your kids up? So our next step is to purchase condos, one for each child, rent them out. So when they're finished college, they have an opportunity to move in, keep them as a rental, or step up. And it just creates that floor, if you will, where they're not starting from scratch, where they're coming out with an advantage that others don't have because their mom is taking the steps to set them up. Yeah. Instead of just like, we don't have it, it is what it is.
Yeah. So you're saying that she's buying those now, renting them out, and then when they're ready, then they will either be able to move into them themselves or
whatever they decide to do, whether it's sell it to step up into a home or move in or keep as a rental while they rent somewhere else. It's all about having those choices. And I'm seeing more and more people starting to become aware of, hey, things are so expensive. How's my kid who's 16, finishing high school, going to go to college, ever going to be able to buy if I don't make some changes and some action now? Yeah.
So when you're doing that sort of strategy, that one specifically, were they titling the property in their kids' names so that they could avoid any future, I guess, gift tax or anything like that? Or are they keeping it in their name and waiting to see what that looks like down the line?
What I've always recommended is doing a trust, but I let them consult with whoever is advising them on that side. But I explain, look, you can do a trust. You can put them on the title with you. Obviously, if you're paying for it, and it depends on the situation. Some are doing cash, some are doing financing. So I always say, if you're doing financing, definitely get them on the deed so that there's no problems down the road. Like if something should happen to you and you're not as prepared, you don't want things to go through probate. You don't want there to be an issue. Yeah. I'm even doing that with my mom as we're changing her situation so that when she should pass, that there's not a huge complicated thing to unravel and it can be nice and clean.
Yeah. Yeah. Just signed a will with my wife yesterday, the day before. We're like, yeah, okay, we're in that.
We don't always think about it. And some people don't want to face that aspect of life and be prepared.
I mean, I could tell you from buying, because like I was telling you earlier, we focused on just buying. And so we've seen so many different things on title and so many issues and things to overcome. And probate is always a huge pain if it hasn't been probated. Delays closing, delays the kids getting anything. It's just a huge nightmare. So yeah, if you can set it up and establish it early, do it, be thoughtful about it and take some advice here from Corrie. So, all right. So that's kind of on the brokerage side. And so my takeaway from that is, one, be educational. And I love that because, again, you are expressing your knowledge and helping others in the business community. And so it just highlights you. So yeah, I think that's a huge tip. If you're not doing that as an agent, you should be doing that, finding your way to putting yourself into a position of being the knowledge expert in your area. So great advice there. So let's move on and talk about investments. I know, again, we're kind of short on time. We talked previously, you said you had a lot of property, or you had a number of assets or things. So kind of give me the breakdown, how you got started in investing, and then what happened, I guess.
Yeah, sure. So back when I was in the mortgage industry, I had invested pretty heavily in my, retirement with a strategy of doing writing covered calls. So I had accumulated almost $500,000 into my retirement at the time. So I looked at it like, wow, I'm doing loans all day. This is not difficult. I've got the assets. I need to be investing. And so I think my first investment situation was someone in the office had a client who was about to lose their home. And because of the change in interest rates, I was able to purchase it, rent it to them at the same price that they were paying, but net a little bit. So I had a little bit of cash flow. And that kind of started it off for me. So I, over a couple of years, ended up 5 properties. I had 3 rental properties in California, plus the place I lived in, and then one in Florida in the greater Orlando area. And I was on the verge of purchasing 2 in Texas. And the 2 in Texas was kind of like my first debacle. I was trying to use my own brokerage because we were able to do loans in other states. And them being new construction made it very difficult. And so they wouldn't issue the occupancy. And we couldn't close the loan, so I lost my deposit. So that was kind of like the first traumatic thing in my investing experience, which in hindsight taught me always go with new construction, in-house lenders. Otherwise, it's going to be impossible. And then things turned and the mortgage industry started to collapse. So my purchase in Florida completely flipped in value. So from the time that I closed it, I was at $1,000 loss. I was contributing $1,000 to the mortgage to offset the
monthly
mortgage rent. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's like that trickle down effect. The first year it was okay. Sometimes people were missing payments, and then people started losing jobs. And I didn't approach it like a business. I was trying to float everything. So I depleted my savings. I depleted my own home equity line, paying all these mortgages when people weren't paying, instead of taking a hard, very unemotional, this is business approach of you've missed rent 3 months in a row, you have to leave, and doing that process. I only started to do that and look at it when I had a handyman out to do a repair on one of the properties, and he was doing a repaint for me. And he called me up. He said, I have to let you know something. These people are deliberately not paying. They told me that they're not paying the rent so that it goes into foreclosure and they can buy it. So then I hired an eviction attorney, got them evicted, won a judgment, but again, made another mistake. I didn't file it with the courts for the courts to collect. So I never made a penny. I just got them out. And from that point, I realized I was in over my head. I had approached things wrong. So I just started getting rid of the properties, short selling and trying to beat the bank in situations where I couldn't do it anymore,
Yeah. Yeah. So when did you start buying, and then when did you, because I was a loan officer as well back in 04, 05, crushing it, like anybody fogging could get a loan type of thing, right?
Buying from 2005 to 2008, right before that crashing point. So I was really fighting to hold on, and it teaches you some lessons. For me, one of the lessons was don't be overly leveraged, because I was completely leveraged out. Don't be over emotional. I, at the time, and I'm still to a degree like this. I'm so I want to help people. I'm kind hearted. It's I feel for you. Let me see what I can do. But you can't do that when you're dealing with assets, and you have to look at these properties as an asset. It's not you're helping someone. Yes, you're helping by providing a home for them to live in, but it's a service. They're paying you for the right to live in that property, and you have to kind of detach. And so it took me about 10 years to be ready again. So now the original property that I lived in is a rental. I've realized you've got to clean it up every couple of years. You need to have turnover. You're going to be stuck in a certain rent, and you've got to look at it as an investment. So, in the last 6 years, I've spent a couple thousand, did a big rehaul 2 years ago, which increased my rent by almost $1,000. And now I'm looking at, okay, what are my personal next steps? Is it a multi-unit? Will that protect me in a recession? Because the worst thing we just experienced was COVID. And you couldn't kick anybody out for not paying rent. So if you're a person versus a corporation that owns something and they're not paying rent, what are you going to do? We were fortunate that there was that period where they also put a freeze on the loans. But what if that doesn't happen and there's another situation like that? You kind of have to try to think as much as you can outside the box to make sure you're as protected as possible. And so you've been a former loan officer, so you know there's ways to pay off your mortgage quicker. And that's something I always share with my buy clients when we close. Like, look, these are some strategies. Here's a breakdown. Here's a calculator. Here's a spreadsheet. Play with this. I highly recommend you do X, Y, Z so that you can trim down some of that. And as long as you kind of come with it with an approach, and that's been my new approach, is that the next one I want to work on paying down, and then after X amount of time, then do the next one. Instead of trying to do so many so quickly out the gate, I want to take a little more time with it and have more equity in it versus the bank owning it.
Yeah.
And being so leveraged.
Yeah. So that's your current strategy. That's what you're working on. You're working to pay down Okay. So what's your goal over the next year or two? Are you trying to find another one? Or are you,
yes, I am. I'm working on paying that one down. So like I've changed from having cash flow to just dumping it back into the property. And I've been exploring the last 2 years, other states where our cost of real estate is so expensive here, right? Yeah. And sometimes, like especially now with interest rates ticking up, there isn't really cash flow if you're coming in at that purchase price. So I'm exploring other states. I'm exploring states like Alabama, Atlanta, Georgia, the greater Atlanta area. I'm even starting to look at Ohio. I'm hearing a lot of great things about some multi-family opportunities there. But it's when you start dealing with out of states, the one thing that I've learned is you have to make sure you're taking the time to go and visit those properties once or twice a year. You cannot rely on a property management telling you things are okay. You've got to be able to see your property. It is an asset. You need to know what's going on. You need to make adjustments time to time.
Yeah, I can't imagine. So back in 7, 8, when you had those in Florida and you were looking in Texas. Yeah, it's one of those things for single family houses. I haven't considered buying out of state just because it's one or two, but we bought an apartment complex out in Atlanta, and that you're getting so many doors at one time that it's like, okay, this thing's well worth flying out, taking a look at doing that. But
I'm starting to think about that too.
Yeah. By the way. I mean, so one thing I will say though, having never bought anything in California, but hearing the landlord laws compared to here in Texas where I am, I'm like, I would never consider buying there. But then I hear these guys, they're killing it because they have figured it out and they run it like a business, and they know that barrier to entry keeps people like me from buying stuff out there. And so then they can, they just know the system, they know how it works. So I know people are doing it and still making money, obviously, but
people are doing it. Like I said, COVID and those kind of, freeze on evictions made it difficult. And there's actually something on the ballot right now that can make it even more difficult that I am actually about to research and probably do a video on, because sometimes our state in the last 20 years leans a little too far this way in trying to protect everybody, and it makes it worse.
If you're listening, she pointed to the left, I think.
Yes. And so sometimes in doing that, you kind of break things down. Like when things are presented on a ballot, they don't tell you all the 12 other things it affects. They just say, this is our bullet point because they're trying to get this measure passed, but it has a trickle effect on so many other things. And most voters don't have time to do the research. They're just going on that, like, what's this bullet? What is this telling me? So especially when it's items that refer to real estate, I try to do a deeper dive and be able to, again, be informative. Yeah. So, I can help my clients or other people just out there, because we're not all corporations with multi-millions of dollars that are buying property. We're people that are trying to set our own retirement up, that are trying to do good by others, but yet also build something for ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Hey, we're getting close to the end. Before we jump off, I wanted to just ask you, it looked like you had volunteered quite a bit. So like, what is it? What do you like doing to give back? I mean, I'm over here taking a look and you're volunteering. So, and then you also had another, it was like a dance academy that was part of the chamber. And so I didn't know if you helped start that or if that was just one of those.
No, that was one of the interviews. But what spoke to me because, back in my 20s, I was dancing. I did like some hip hop videos and was doing all that. And it was a lot of fun. And I just loved that she was taking that element to really connect with people that had some troubled past, that were needing to kind of change the trajectory of their life and have something positive that they could kind of focus on and work through some trauma and aggression in a positive way that helps them to heal and move forward and be more balanced and productive in their own life instead of being self-destructive.
Yeah.
So that really spoke to me. But as far as volunteering, so there's the chamber. I am doing some community events. Like this Sunday, we're doing a puppy adoption. My dog, who I adopted almost 14 years ago, passed in December, and it still hurts my heart because we love our pets, right? But then you have the one that like stands out above the rest. There's just something so special and unique about that one dog, and she was the one. So I had met this gentleman who rescues dogs. He used to work with Brandon McMillan from Lucky Dog Ranch, that TV show.
Yeah.
And so he lives in the high desert. And unfortunately, as people are driving to Vegas or they just can't handle their dog for whatever reason, they're dumping them. But the dogs that are pregnant, the shelters won't take them. Or if they take them, they put them on a kill and they kill the dogs and the puppies because they don't have the space. So I had couple months, a little too early. I wasn't quite ready. I went and checked out a dog and then realized I'm not ready, but I'm trying to help this gentleman get the rest of these 3 litters adopted. So we're doing that Sunday at our local farmers market. I was volunteering with the children's group at church a while back, and I kind of got away from that because, I do open houses Saturday and Sundays, but it's something I want to get back into as well.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, no, it's great. Again, I saw it on there and I wanted to ask you about it just because it's always good to see. You just seem like you're active. You're active out in the community doing things and helping you live the local life. And that's always good. So yeah, I don't know. That's pretty much the time, but I could ask you another 100 questions, but
we can do it again.
Maybe for another one. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So great jumping on. Good talking to you, Corrie. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and information, and go out and crush the day. Have a good one.
You too. Right. Thanks so much.
Catch up soon. Bye. Did you know that 80% of the agents we speak with got into real estate in order to gain passive income so they could obtain financial freedom and become work optional? If you want to stay up to date, the best way is to make sure you're subscribed. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and do it now. We'll catch you on the next episode.